Some claim that it is correct for a Jewish male to neither shave his beard nor even trim his beard. Is this correct?
This claim that a Jew should not trim his beard at all, in other words, that the beard should be allowed to grow wild, as it were, forever, is not based on any halachic source whatever. In fact, we have many sources which disprove this claim. This claim has been connected to a certain statement in the Zohar, the claim that one should not trim one's beard at all, where it states that he who does anything to harm or to touch his beard, as it were, will be punished for so doing. But of course this is open to interpretation. Rabbi Volozhin, the Talmud of the Gra, explained that the Zohar means to say he who takes a razor and sets it to his beard will be punished, which is obvious and basically does not need to be said. Certainly is not something that was ever in question. So that Zohar is also a very dubious source for such a claim, but certainly based on straightforward halachic sources, chazalic sources. Not only is this a claim without any basis whatever, it is quite clearly contradicted by many statements in Chazal. And I will quote here one very clear example, which is a statement which appears in the Talmud Yerushalmi, Masechet Rosh Hashanah, Perek Aleph, Halacha Gimel 1.3, which states as follows. And this source ties in nicely with Rosh Hashanah, which is soon to be upon us. The Yerushalmi states as follows: "B'nohag sheba'olam." It is the normal way of the world. Adam yodea sheyesh lo din. If a person knows that he is about to be put on trial, lovesh shehorim or mit'atef shehorim. He wears dark black clothing and cloaks himself in black clothing. These were the signs of mourning. Dark black clothing were signs of mourning or a person living through a particularly stressful or difficult time. In those days, at least, this was the case. And we also know that down to the present day, in fact, in certain cultures, one could mention, for example, particularly in traditional Italian and Catholic cultures, mourners always wear black, for example, and not only in those particular cultures, but there it is particularly well known that black has to do with mourning and with trouble and sorrow and grieving. So the Yerushalmi says it is the norm for a person who knows that he is being about to be put on trial, a trial where he may be found guilty and maybe a terrible punishment may be meted out, that he dresses in an appropriate fashion. He dresses in black, umiradel zekano, and he allows his beard to grow wild. He lets it to grow and he does not trim it as he normally would. Why does he do this? Says the Yerushalmi, because he does not know what the outcome of this trial will be. He doesn't know if he will be found guilty or not guilty. Aval Yisrael, however, Am Yisrael enam ken, they are not so. Ela lovashim levanim, it is the practice of the Jewish people when they know that they are about to go on trial. This is, of course, a reference to Rosh Hashanah. This is what's being discussed here in the Talmud Yerushalmi, and this statement appears also in a number of midrashim. What do? Lovashim levanim, they wear white clothing. In ancient times, white clothing was the norm for festive clothing, which is perhaps very different from what people are used to today. Very many people today would consider a black suit, for example, to be more formal and more appropriate for Shabbat or for Yom Tov. But we know from many sources in Chazal this was not the case in those days. Black was reserved for a person who was in mourning or a person who was trying to do teshuvah, who considered himself and was known by others to be a sinner who was now doing teshuvah, and as a sign of remorse he would wear black, for example. But a person who was celebrating would wear white. So the Yerushalmi says the Jewish people on Rosh Hashanah do not behave like other people behave when they are about to go on trial. Ela lovashim levanim, or mit'atafim levanim. They wear white clothing and cloak themselves in white shawls. Umeralhim zeqanam, and they trim their beards. I translate the word meralhim as trim and not as shave, because it is clear that it is asur to shave one's beard with the razor, and that was the only option essentially in those days. Whereas to trim with scissors, for example, was something that was the norm. This was something that everybody did quite frequently, certainly lichvot Shabbat, before a Hag, etc. And so that's what it means here. Means that they would trim their beards. And they eat and celebrate and drink, and they rejoice and they celebrate the day. Why do they do this? They know, they are sure that Hashem will perform miracles for them, literally. In other words, they know, they believe, they have reason to believe that Hashem will find them not guilty, that Hashem will bless the Jewish people. So we find in the Yerushalmi, this statement appears in the Tur, in the Chot Rosh Hashanah, Siman Tau Chof Pe Aleph. He quotes it there in the name of the Midrash, exactly the same source. What we see from this very important source, what we can learn for our purposes, are two things. First of all, with regards to trimming the beard, that trimming one's beard is a normal practice which was always performed by Jews without any question. There was no doubt about this. We also see this from Hilchot Aveluth, Hilchot Evel, from laws pertaining to a mourner, where we are told that a person who is in mourning, shall we say for the first 30 days, does not trim his beard. The implication, of course, is that normally a person would trim their beard, and therefore this has to be stated that in this case a person does not do so. If it was the norm, if it was proper, if it was accepted that people did not regularly trim their beards, then there would be no emphasis needed to be placed on this. And the other thing we learn, of course, which is what the Torah also points out with regard to this statement in the Yerushalmi and the Midrash, which is important with regards to Rosh Hashanah, is that Rosh Hashanah is not a day for mourning or for sadness. Rosh Hashanah is a day for rejoicing, for simcha, as we find explicitly in Sefer Nehemiah, where there too the people tended to misunderstand the true nature of the day of Kabbalat Malchut Shamayim in a concentrated and emphatic way once a year on Rosh Hashanah. And instead they began to cry and bewail their sins, etc. And Nehemiah and Ezra Sofer told them, no, this is not the right thing to do. What you should do today is to eat and drink and celebrate and be happy and rejoice that you are Hashem's special people.
Thank you, Rabbi Bar-Hayim. We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. We would also like to suggest the following opportunity to our viewers. If you identify with Rabbi Bar-Hayim's message and would like to sponsor or dedicate a video interview with the rabbi in honor or memory of a loved one, if you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.